Patriot missiles have become a major talking point during the war in Ukraine. Ukraine is trying to get as many as it can because it knows how powerful these missiles are. Russia, on the other hand, has warned Western countries not to send them. But Western nations went ahead and supplied them anyway. Ukraine still keeps asking for more Patriot missiles, and there's a good reason why. These missiles are Ukraine's best defense against the heavy air attacks ordered by Russian President Vladimir Putin. But what exactly are Patriot missiles, and why are they in such high demand? Let's break it down. Patriot missiles are some of the most effective weapons for stopping ballistic missile attacks. A ballistic missile is a rocket that follows a curved path through the sky to reach its target. These missiles go so high into the air that most defense systems can't touch them until it's almost too late. When they come back down, they're moving incredibly fast, making them very hard to shoot down. On top of that, these missiles can carry dangerous warheads, anything from explosives to chemical, biological, or even nuclear weapons. Ballistic missiles can be launched from land, sea, or air, and they pose a serious risk to any country in their path. Russia has a lot of these missiles. The exact number varies depending on the source. According to a report from the Kyiv Independent on June 21st, Russia has around 1,950 missiles, along with thousands of drones. While not all are ballistic, the report mentioned 60 KN-23 missiles, 150 Kinjal hypersonic missiles, and 500 Iskander-M missiles. The KN-23s are believed to come from North Korea, possibly through a weapons deal between the two countries. However, another source, Defense Express, gave different numbers. On July 13th, they reported that Ukrainian military intelligence believes Russia has about 250 Iskander-Ms and 50 KN-23s, instead of 560. Russia also has around 60 mobile launchers positioned near the Ukrainian border and around 300 short-range missiles it could still use. Whether it's 500 missiles or 300, the real concern is how often Russia actually uses them. One of the most tragic examples happened in April when Russia launched 2 Iskander missiles at the Ukrainian city of Sumy. From Russia's perspective, the attack hit its target, but it caused terrible damage. According to the BBC, at least 34 people were killed and 117 were injured, including 15 children. The strike happened on Palm Sunday, a day that should have been a peaceful celebration. Instead, it turned into a day of grief for Sumy, as the missiles destroyed lives and shattered a moment of hope. And that brings us back to the importance of Patriot missiles. Unlike cruise missiles, which fly in a straight, low path, ballistic missiles travel in high arcs. As reported by the Kyiv Independent on July 14th, they rise far into the atmosphere before dropping back down at high speed. Because of this steep, curved path and the fact that they move incredibly fast, often faster than the speed of sound, it's extremely hard to stop them without special technology designed for that purpose. That's exactly what Patriot missiles are built for. One version, called the PAC-3, Patriot Advanced Capability 3, is considered by Lockheed Martin, its manufacturer, to be one of the most advanced air defense missiles in the world. And they're not wrong. Patriot missiles don't just target ballistic missiles, they can also take out cruise missiles and enemy aircraft, including fast-moving fighter jets. Defense expert Andrei Karuk explained more about this in an interview with the Kyiv Independent. According to Karuk, one of the Patriot system's strengths is its flexible design. It allows different kinds of weapons and radars to be used with it. That includes swappable launchers and batteries, making the system even more adaptable. But let's talk about the missiles themselves. There are 2 main types, PAC-2 and PAC-3. Their effectiveness against ballistic threats depends on which version is used. The PAC-2 is an older model, but still capable of countering ballistic missiles. As explained by Air and Space magazine, it's a ground-launched missile powered by solid fuel carrying a large explosive warhead. It flies at very high speeds and can hit targets at high altitudes. The PAC-2 can reach speeds around 3,500 miles per hour, fast enough to match or exceed many ballistic missiles. It can also strike targets up to 20 miles above the ground. This is important because Russian Iskander-M missiles, for example, fly at altitudes between roughly 4 and 31 miles. So while the PAC-2 might not always hit them at their highest point, it can still take them out while they're on the way down. The PAC-2 was first used in combat during the Iraq War in 2002 and proved to be very effective. Still, the US needed a more advanced version, something faster, more accurate, and even better at taking out enemy missiles. That's where the PAC-3 comes in. Like the PAC-2, it's designed to intercept incoming threats. But at first glance, some might think it's a step down. That's because the PAC-3 has a shorter range. It can hit targets only between 12 and 22 miles away. This means defenders have to wait longer before firing, which adds some risk. But the PAC-3 makes up for this in other, more important ways. One major upgrade is its hit-to-kill technology. Unlike the PAC-2, which explodes near its target to cause damage, the PAC-3 crashes directly into its target and destroys it with the force of the impact. This direct hit method makes it far more precise. The PAC-3 also flies faster, reaching speeds of Mach 5 or around 3,836 miles per hour. That extra speed is crucial when you're dealing with fast-moving ballistic missiles. Plus, it has its own radar built into the front of the missile, allowing it to lock onto and follow targets independently. The reason? The Pentagon was worried it didn't have enough for its own defense plans. It had only about 25% of the missiles it expected to need in the future. That shortage was partly caused by a US military operation called Operation Midnight Hammer, which involved bombing key nuclear facilities in Iran. Although the mission was mostly a success, it led to retaliation from Iran, and the US had to use a significant number of Patriot missiles to defend itself. This, along with earlier military actions under the Trump administration, including a long campaign of airstrikes against Houthi forces in Yemen, had already strained America's missile supplies. Thankfully, that pause is now over, and shipments of Patriot missiles to Ukraine have resumed. Still, the number being sent is far too low to meet Ukraine's actual needs. According to the Kiev Independent, the US has agreed to send just 10 Patriot missiles, each costing around $4 million. While that's a start, defense expert Andrei Karuk says it's not nearly enough. He points out that shooting down one ballistic missile usually requires 2 Patriot missiles to be launched at the same time. If that's true, Ukraine's 10 missiles would only be able to stop 5 incoming threats. And when you consider that Russia likely has hundreds of ballistic missiles, it becomes clear that 10 won't make a real difference. And this problem isn't just limited to the US. Looking back at Iran, The Guardian reported that if conflict breaks out again, Iran has over 1,000 ballistic missiles it could fire at American bases in the Middle East. The demand for missile defense is global and growing fast. The United States is hoping that tensions in the Middle East don't escalate further. After Operation Midnight Hammer, it's now pushing for peace in the region. But if things take a turn for the worse, the US only makes around 600 Patriot missiles each year, hardly enough if Iran decides to launch its full arsenal. Based on estimates from defense expert Patriot and The Guardian, it would take the US over 3 years to build enough Patriots to match the number of ballistic missiles Iran is believed to have, and that's just Iran. The US also faces possible threats from other countries with ballistic capabilities, including China, Russia, North Korea, Pakistan, and Belarus. Even groups like the Houthis in Yemen reportedly have short-range ballistic missiles, such as the SS-21 and FROG-7, according to the Arms Control Association. So every time the US sends a Patriot missile to Ukraine, it's using up one that might be needed for its own defense in the future. This situation highlights a basic economic issue: supply and demand. The US controls the supply and has to think carefully about how many it can afford to send abroad while still protecting its own interests. Ukraine understands this challenge and has been trying to find other ways to get more Patriots. It's reached out not just to the US but also to other Western allies, asking them to share their missile systems. But many of these countries are facing the same problem. Their stockpiles are limited and they worry about being caught unprepared if another conflict breaks out. In response, Ukraine has suggested building Patriot missiles locally. At the 25th Ramstein summit in January, President Zelensky said Ukraine was in talks with the US about getting permission to manufacture Patriots within the country. He said these discussions could help strengthen Ukraine's long-term security. But so far, there's been no public sign of progress. That's not really a surprise. The Patriot missile is one of the most advanced weapons in the US arsenal, and Washington is understandably cautious about sharing its detailed technology. Even if the production were licensed, the US would likely worry that Ukraine might later export the missiles to other countries. That's something the US wants to avoid. It prefers to control who gets access to these weapons, which creates a supply bottleneck. Only about 600 Patriot missiles are produced each year, and there are many buyers. Military expert Frank Ledwidge from the University of Portsmouth summed it up in an interview with the Kyiv Independent. "I don't think they're in a strong position, but the US won't reveal how many missiles it actually has, and they shouldn't. They're concerned that giving too much to Ukraine could leave them vulnerable, especially in the Pacific region, and to a lesser extent, the Middle East." So far, the US and its allies seem hesitant to license production or give up more of their own supply, even though Ukraine continues to push for it. Is there a way out of the supply crunch? The US has slowly been increasing its output of Patriot missiles. Back in 2018, Lockheed Martin was making about 350 a year, according to Defense News. That number rose to 500 by 2021, just before Russia invaded Ukraine. In 2024, production climbed to 550, and by mid-year, it had reached 600. The Guardian reports that Lockheed Martin has built a new, larger production facility, 85,000 square feet in size, to help speed things up. The company now aims to boost production to 650 Patriot missiles per year by 2027. It's definitely a step in the right direction, but even producing 650 Patriot missiles a year won't be enough to fully meet the United States' needs, supply European partners, and give Ukraine the protection it requires against Russian attacks. A new player might help, though. Rheinmetall, a defense company based in Germany, is teaming up with Lockheed Martin to set up a large production facility in Europe for making Patriot PAC-3 and ATAC-MS missiles, according to a report from Militani on May 18th. Talks are still ongoing, but the main reason behind this move is clear. US production alone can't keep up with global demand. Rheinmetall's CEO, Armin Papiga, said that getting missiles from the US can take up to 10 years, which is far too long. Even so, this European project isn't guaranteed to succeed. Rheinmetall still needs a license to start building the facility, and even if everything goes smoothly, it will take time before production begins. Papiga estimates that, at best, a production line could be running in 12 to 13 months. But that doesn't mean missiles will start rolling off the line right away. If all goes according to plan, Rheinmetall would begin producing missile engines in 2026, and full missile production might not begin until 2027. Full capacity wouldn't be reached until sometime in 2028 or 2029. Papiga says demand is currently around 250 to 300 PAC-3 missiles per year. Even if Rheinmetall adds that many and Lockheed Martin hits its target of 650 missiles a year by 2027, the total output would be around 900 to 950 annually. That's more than today, but still probably not enough unless something major happens, like the war in Ukraine coming to an end. Still, progress is being made, and it looks like Ukraine will be getting more support. According to a July 14th report from ABC Australia, Donald Trump announced that the US would be sending additional Patriot missile systems and ammunition to Ukraine. He also said that America's NATO allies and European partners would cover the cost. That could mean the US is supplying missiles directly and being reimbursed, or it could mean allies are handing over their systems to Ukraine while the US replaces them with new ones, paid for by those allies. Either way, if this deal goes through, it's great news for Ukraine. On top of the 10 Patriot missiles previously approved under a delayed aid package, Ukraine will now receive even more help at a time when it's badly needed. But details, like how many missiles are coming and when, are still unclear. One thing is obvious. The demand for Patriot missiles is higher than ever. To meet it, the US must keep pushing to increase production as fast as possible. It's already working on solutions, including potential licensing deals and domestic efforts to expand manufacturing. Still, there's more to do. The US needs to protect its own supply and also shorten the wait time for allies who might otherwise have to wait nearly a decade for these highly sought-after defense systems. Of course, Patriots aren't Ukraine's only option. Systems like Germany's Skynex are already helping take down Russia's constant drone attacks. Want to see how these advanced defenses work in real time? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.